everyone, my name is Monet Warren and welcome to the Diary of a Single Woman. So today we're going to be talking about the satisfaction in singleness model. The satisfaction in singleness model is a model that I created for my millennials because I know how we are. We like steps, right? If we're going to do something, we want to know how long it's going to take. We want to know how to prepare. We want to see an example to compare ours to, and then we want you to create a catchy hook in the event that we forget it and we need a tune to remind us of the steps. I know how y'all are, I got you. So this idea is completely rooted in my foundation as a grad student. When I was a grad student, we devoted an entire semester to learning different student development theories and different student development models. And what these models were used for is they were kind of used as a guide for the student affairs practitioner to take a look at where our student was developmentally and try to also paint a picture of where we were trying to get them to go and try to look at some of the steps that they may go through so that we can kind of, create various assignments or sanctions to help them, to challenge them to grow and develop. So the satisfaction in singleness model is completely rooted in that same idea. There's so many women who are dissatisfied with being single. I know I was dissatisfied in my singleness this time last year, and it had, when I really actually engaged in the process, I learned that it had almost nothing to do with the fact that I was single and everything to do with those unresolved issues, right? Or those unhealed hurts that relationships sometimes can distract us from. So this model, before I even introduce it fully, let me just say it's not 100% accurate for every single woman, and it's not scientifically proven, and it's going to change your whole entire life. It really just is a model for you to take a look at where you are in your singleness and where you want to go, and some possible behaviors, attitudes, just various adjustments that you can make as you try to transition in your satisfaction in singleness. And as you go through the phases, you will notice that not only are you becoming more satisfied in your singleness, you're healing a whole lot of hurts. And because honestly, that's really what's underneath our dissatisfaction with being single. And to be perfectly honest, you shouldn't be in a relationship anyway if you really are just unhappy with where you are in life, because you take that into the relationship. So I'm gonna stop talking about it and just talk about it. The first phase is conditional singleness. So in conditional singleness, this is really the base foundation. This is the woman who is in and out of situationships. Dare I call you a serial dater? You are completely dissatisfied with being single. You cannot take being single. You hate being single. That's why you're in and out of situationships, because when one ends, you are willing to jump right into the next one. You're completely dissatisfied. You don't like being single. You have identified singleness as something very, very negative. So this is where a lot of women find ourselves, where we're just, going from one thing to the next, not even fully like sticking to our standards just for the sake of being in a situationship. During this phase, it is highly recommended that you begin to just cut things off. You gotta cut it off. No, even the ones who are really, really nice that you're not really into, but you just keep them around so that you can have a Friday night date, you gotta cut them off. You gotta let go of the brothers who it's not gonna work, they no good. You just really can't, for whatever reason. I'm not even gonna say the reason why you're probably holding on, because I'm a Christian woman, but you gotta let it go. This is the phase where you are most vulnerable. This is the phase where it's just one hurt on top of the next. And so you gotta stop. You gotta get it out. It's pretty cut and dry in this phase. So phase 2 is involuntary, voluntary singleness. So I know it's like, how is something gonna be involuntary and voluntary at the same time? Let me explain to you. So it's involuntary because you would still much rather be in a relationship. You still have a very negative view of singleness, and if the right one were to come along, you would abandon this process. You would go on to him. Whereas in the stage before, you're just kind of dating anything. You're not so selective. Here in involuntary, voluntary singleness, it has to be that really, really super special one for you to abandon this new single journey that you find yourself on. It's voluntary because you have matured a bit and you have realized that, okay, there's definitely something wrong in my dating practices. I'm constantly in and out of relationship. Something is not right. And so you realize that you need to just take a beat from dating and be single. This is a pretty vulnerable phase because, like I said, it's involuntary and voluntary. You're not 100% sold. Even though you begin to start to see some of the benefits of being single, you're still not 100% sold. So you could really go either way. There's also 3 different sub-phases during this second phase. The first one is, of course, in the very beginning, it's gonna be discomfort. So you're gonna be experiencing some discomfort that comes from being newly single, right? You're going to have to adjust to not having someone text you good morning. You're going to adjust to no longer having a +1. You're gonna have to adjust to being single, and that takes some time. It takes time to unlearn how it feels to be in a relationship, and that's discomfort. That causes discomfort. It can cause some loneliness, some sadness. And so that's the first sub-phase. The second sub-phase is acceptance. Eventually the discomfort begins to fizzle out and it just becomes your new normal, right? You've adjusted. And then you transition into the third sub-phase, which is conditional contentment. So during conditional contentment, you're like, oh my goodness, life is great. I am a professional single woman and I'm so good, and yes, I can do this. The reason it's called conditional contentment is because your conditions can change and alter that contentment. So let's say you find out your ex-boo has a new boo, or Valentine's Day comes, or your birthday comes, whatever season it is that come, the holidays. I know it's really hard to be single during the holidays. I just did a video about that too. So the conditions change, and that can cause you to spiral. It can cause you to go back to discomfort. It can cause a whole lot of things. That's why this phase you're so vulnerable in this phase, because you really could go either way. You see the benefits of being single, but you also see the benefits of dating. So you really can be swayed either way. So this is the phase where you really just want to arm yourself. You want to understand that there's going to be some discomfort, but you will get past it. You're going to understand that curveballs are going to come because it's the first time that you're trying to take this journey. So new things, new feelings, new emotions are going to arise that you're going to have to deal with, but don't let jumping into another relationship be the way that you deal. Figure it out. I can't tell you what works for you. What worked for me was prayer, giving it to God, journaling. I journal every single day, and talking to wise counsel. I didn't talk to everyone about my business. I only talked to women who were in a healthy place that could give me some tools to get to where I wanted to go. I'm a counselor, and so I knew of some of the tools myself, but I also was wise enough to know that emotionally I can't, because I'm in it and it's me, I need the perspective of someone else to help me through. So you have to figure out what those things are going to be for you. But here in this phase, this is really the make it or break it zone. And honestly, to be completely transparent, this is also where you do go back and forth a bit before you finally get it right. And that's completely okay. The objective is to keep on progressing. You also want to make sure during this second phase that your boundaries are on fleek. You want to make sure that you are every time those men try to make their quarterly appearances, because they always do, hey, what's up, Monet? How's it going? You know that it's coming. You want to make your boundaries so crystal clear. You want to cut that joker off. You want to put him on block. You want to do whatever it is to make sure that you don't end up becoming swayed, because that's what happens. Like, you start to miss having that someone, and then randomly someone appears, and it's easy to fall into that trap. So you want to set up those boundaries, whatever those boundaries are going to be for you. For me, I had to block. Some people say it was childish. Some people will say it was, whatever, it was too much. But for me, it was what I needed to do. So for you, you have to figure out what those boundaries are and really begin to stick to them. The third phase is voluntary singleness. So now we've dropped the involuntary and now it is just voluntary. So during this phase, you truly begin to see the benefits of being single for yourself. You really start to begin to see that you are healing and that you are in a much better place. So you're more committed to this process of singleness. Now, I will say that you still have a negative view of singleness. You still would like to be in a relationship, and the fact that you're single does cause you some discomfort, but it's not overwhelming like it was in the stage before. You don't particularly like being single, but you're committed to it. And even if you were to meet Prince Charming or the man that you've dreamed of, you are you are committed to the season to where you're like, sir, thank you so much for your interest. I'm flattered. Just right now, I'm taking some time to heal. Maybe in a few months, maybe we can exchange numbers now. And in a few months, if you're still single and interested, maybe we can make this work. But right now, like, I'm committed to this. So that is the difference in your attitude with your singleness. Here during this phase, your attitude is actually your primary concern. You want to start addressing your attitude about your singleness. So in this phase, you do start to realize, you know what, I was tripping. I needed to be single. That was a hot mess. You start to even connecting the dots to like, oh, wow, like I have an issue with acceptance. And so being in relationships make me feel accepted. You start to make those sorts of connections here during this phase. So again, you really are more invested in the phase. You're invested in the phase because this phase is marked by the beginning of true contentment. That is when that hurt begins to kind of settle and you really do become, you begin to become content. You're not fully there yet. You haven't quite yet arrived, but you begin to become more content. The fourth and final phase, I have just called it pure singleness. I couldn't find a more creative name, so we're just gonna go with it. So during this phase, listen, across all 4 phases, I want to make this clear. You still do have a desire to be married, to be in a relationship, to date. That doesn't change. What changes is the way that you allow that to impact and affect your life and emotions and the decisions that you make. So in pure singleness, you are completely content with being single. You still desire to be married, like I said, but it does not cause you to act irrationally. It doesn't cause you to go out and do things and hoping to find a man. You are just living life, right? You are now doing the things that you've been saving to do for when you got married. I know for me, Hawaii was one of those trips that I was saving to take for when I got into a relationship because I felt like that was a place to go in a relationship. Still ain't been to Hawaii, but it's for a completely different reason other than my singleness. But you start doing those things and taking those trips that you've been saving for a relationship. You start wearing those outfits that you bought thinking, this is gonna be a good date outfit. You start putting those date outfits on and taking yourself on dates and being completely okay with it. Here, you really do start to just really live and thrive. This is the phase that I'm in, and to be perfectly honest, I feel like it's been a new birth. The fact that I've created this Diary of a Single Woman to talk about my journey through singleness is really just evidence of the growth that I've gone through. This time last year, you couldn't catch me willing to do something like this because I was just like, my thing was, I don't want to be involved in any sort of singles ministry because then I'm gonna have to be single forever because I'm known as the resident single expert. I didn't want to do it, but I've just come to see singleness as a place of growth and beauty, and not a limitation. That's what this phase is. It really is a relearning of yourself. It's really hard to get to know yourself intimately in the context of a relationship and always dating. Like, you are going to learn and grow and change in a relationship, but you need to get your foundation first before you go chasing behind someone. How can you really intimately know someone when you're chasing someone, when you're constantly making changes to yourself to appease that person? So here is you really get to know yourself. You get to know your likes, your dislikes. You create the soundtrack for you. You create a new birth. You chase after new hobbies. And then now, like, when you do date, you bring a more healthy version of yourself to the table. I'm still single. I'm still not dating, but I am in a place where I'm at least open to dating now. Like, I'm not in that place of voluntary singleness where if I meet you, I'm like, now I'm in the process of dating. But my process and my foundation, it involves God, and it involves a commitment that I made to him where I was like, I'm gonna date intentionally now. I'm not going to date someone just because. In fact, I was like, God, I don't want to date anyone who's not going to be the man that I marry. I've dated enough. I know what it is like. So I will remain single until you present something in front of me. And I haven't seen it yet, but I feel as though I'm gonna know what it looks like when I do see it. So I hope that this video has helped you to take a look at where you are and figured out where you were trying to be. And it's also giving you some ideas or some things to try and do to get you into a more pure singleness phase. the attitude that you bring to this journey is greatly going to impact your progression. It's greatly going to impact how long you stay in one phase. If you decide that you're gonna cut everybody else off except this one person, it's impossible for you to get anywhere beyond phase 1 or 2. Really phase 1, but it's really hard for you to get beyond phase 2 if you are still hanging on, because the objective is not to transition through these single phases still needing someone else. The objective is to really learn and grow into a state of satisfaction within your singleness. Again, so I hope this model helps. If it doesn't help, then I'm sorry you've wasted, 10 minutes of your life. Anyways, be blessed and keep progressing.